Right now, if you want to find a romantic partner, you have options. You can meet someone at work, at a party, through friends, on social media, or with a dating app that lets you swipe through hundreds of people while sitting on your couch. But for almost all of human history, none of that existed. No cities, no schools, no internet, no restaurants, no dating apps. So how did cavemen find love? The answer begins long before the first civilization, before farming, before houses, and even before humans looked like humans. About 6 million years ago, our ancestors lived in small groups across Africa. Survival was difficult. Predators were everywhere. Food was uncertain. Life expectancy was short. In that environment, finding a mate wasn't just about romance. It was about survival. Charles Darwin proposed that evolution works through two processes. The first is natural selection. The second is sexual selection. Natural selection determines who survives. Sexual selection determines who reproduces. And throughout the animal kingdom, individuals compete for mates in countless ways. Peacocks grow enormous tails. Deer grow antlers. Birds perform elaborate dances. Humans developed something different: social intelligence. Instead of fighting with horns or displaying colorful feathers, our ancestors attracted partners through cooperation, status, storytelling, humor, generosity, and social bonds. Love, as strange as it sounds, may have helped us make us human. But what did dating actually look like 50,000 years ago? To answer that, archaeologists look at surviving hunter-gatherer societies. While they aren't identical to ancient humans, they provide clues about how early people may have lived. Most hunter-gatherer groups lived in bands of around 20 to 50 people. Everyone knew everyone. There were no strangers constantly entering the group, which creates a problem. If everyone in your band is related to you, who do you marry? Anthropologists believe many groups solved this by exchanging members with neighboring bands. People traveled, groups met, gatherings occurred, and during these gatherings, young people met potential partners. In other words, prehistoric humans probably had social events long before they had cities. One famous example comes from Australian Aboriginal communities. Large ceremonial gatherings sometimes brought hundreds of people together. These events involved dancing, storytelling, rituals, and courtship. Many researchers believe similar gatherings likely existed throughout human prehistory. So cavemen weren't simply dragging partners back to caves. They were part of complex social networks. And surprisingly, love may have played a larger role than most people imagine. For decades, scientists assumed prehistoric relationships were mostly transactional. The strongest male gets the female. End of story. But evidence began challenging that idea. Human babies are unusually helpless. A newborn human requires years of care, far longer than most mammals. This created an evolutionary advantage for long-term cooperation between parents. According to anthropologist Helen Fisher, pair bonding became one of humanity's most important adaptations. The brain chemicals associated with romantic attachment, dopamine, oxytocin, and vasopressin, helped keep couples together long enough to raise children successfully. In other words, love wasn't just a feeling, it may have been an evolutionary strategy. And evidence suggests it goes back surprisingly far. Around 3.6 million years ago, two individuals walked side by side across volcanic ash in what is now Tanzania. Their footprints were preserved and eventually fossilized. Today, they're known as the Laetoli footprints. Scientists still debate exactly who made them, but some researchers have suggested they may represent a male and female traveling together. It's impossible to know for certain, yet it hints at something fascinating. Long before history began, our ancestors may already have been forming social bonds similar to our own. Then there are burials. Across Europe and Asia, archaeologists have discovered prehistoric graves where individuals were buried together. One of the most famous examples comes from Russia. At a site called Sungir, approximately 34,000 years old, people were buried with thousands of carefully crafted beads and ornaments. The amount of effort invested in these burials suggests deep emotional connections existed within these communities. Humans weren't simply surviving, they cared about one another. They mourned, they remembered, and perhaps they loved. But attraction itself may have looked very different. Today, beauty standards change constantly. In one century, pale skin is fashionable. In another, tanned skin is. Preferences shift with culture. Yet some traits appear remarkably consistent across human populations. Researchers have found that health, symmetry, kindness, confidence, and social status influence attraction almost everywhere. Why? Because these traits often signal something valuable: good health, resourcefulness, cooperation, the ability to help raise children, the same things that mattered 50,000 years ago. In a sense, modern dating apps are still evaluating ancient criteria. We've just replaced campfires with smartphones. Perhaps the biggest surprise is that cavemen likely spent far more time socializing than we imagine. Popular movies portray prehistoric humans as dirty loners grunting in caves. The reality was probably very different. Anthropologists estimate that hunter-gatherers often worked fewer hours than modern office workers. Much of their time was spent talking, telling stories, singing, dancing, and strengthening social bonds. And that's where love most likely happened. Not during dramatic battles with saber-toothed cats, but around fires, during conversations, through shared experiences. The same way many relationships begin today. So here's the full picture. Millions of years ago, evolution shaped humans to seek companionship. Tens of thousands of years ago, hunter-gatherers traveled between groups and met potential partners during gatherings and ceremonies. Long-term pair bonds helped raise children and increased survival. Emotional attachment became one of humanity's most powerful adaptations. And while the world around us has changed completely, the basic process hasn't changed nearly as much as we think. The apps are new, the feelings are ancient, the technology is modern, the biology is prehistoric. Every crush, every first date, every heartbreak, and every love story is part of a system that has been evolving for millions of years. Because long before humans built cities, invented writing, or landed on the moon, they were already searching for the same thing many people are searching for today: someone to share the fire with.